Ladies and gentlemen, this is Lounging with Lisa, the video series that has me lounging while coming at you thoughts of the day. I didn't think I'd be back this soon, but Jordan sent me this. And do you remember how I've been saying that it's important to use terms other than like chemtrails, to use what it's actually called, which would be geoengineering, to get things across? And I've noticed there was this lady, I think, running in Arizona for office. And she was, as I like to say jokingly, called everything but a white woman for bringing this to light. And they called her Chemtrail Kelly. So I'm going to play this little bit. It's from, and I think it's funny, you can almost see me in the background. It's from GEOEngineeringwatch.org. Yeah, clearly I'm smoking. I'm going to put this out. So yeah, please just listen to this. Please, I'm begging you, if you're rolling your eyes repeatedly, if you don't believe this is happening, whatever the case may be, I wonder how I could get the glare off this. I don't know. Please take the time and just listen. Listen for 5 minutes or however long I'm going to go.
Back to biosphere implosion and the attempt of the power structure to hide what's unfolding. The following point must be again driven home, as the New York Times has recently made clear. And the points I'm about to cover are in regard to how to effectively raise awareness till we reach a critical mass. Credibility is crucial
in
the fight to expose and halt climate engineering and any other dire issue. I've repeated this over and over, the importance of using, in the case of climate engineering, these science terms. Now we have an example from last week to back up what I've said week after week after week. Last week, we got another glaring example of why using the science terms to address the climate engineering issue is so critically important. The New York Times just published a video titled Chemtrail Kelly and included the following verbiage. Arizonans rejected Chemtrail Kelly Ward's embarrassing behavior and dangerous ideas. Chemtrail Kelly supported wacky conspiracy theories and even spent taxpayer money on a town hall.
Do you see already? When people say, okay, I've gone over this before. When people just stand on the street and yell, 9/11 was an inside job, and things about chemtrails, there are going to be collective eye-rolling measures taken to the point where it will generate electricity in a neighboring village. We have to use correct terminology, ladies and gentlemen, or people will not listen. I'm thinking right now there's probably people thinking I'm crazy, but look at these pictures. Listen to this gentleman. His name is Dane. That's D-A-N-E. Wigington, W-I-G-I-N-G-T-O-N. And I thank my producer, Jordan, for turning me on to this gentleman. Here goes.
About chemtrails. Now, I want to drive this point home because so many people refuse to let go of that term. It just feels good to them. Well, that doesn't help us win the battle, does it? And when we have such marginalization because of that term, do you think, and I would ask anybody to answer this question, do you think the New York Times would have been able to marginalize this Arizona senator if the meeting she went to was about geoengineering or solar radiation management? And do you think they would have called her Geoengineering Kelly or Solar Radiation Management Kelly? Do you think they would have even done this story at all?
Okay. For example, the other day when I dropped into Tom Hartman to once again remind people to look at this gentleman's channel, geoengineeringwatch.org, for that CIA whistleblower. Excuse me, I'm getting bitten. You can see my reflection behind this. Hello. Oh, I made my cell phone cover in the back, but you really can't see it. Anyhow, Tom Hartman referred to this lady as Chemtrail Kelly. I was very much turned off by that. Okay, here goes.
No, they wouldn't have, because people would have then searched those terms, found out that there's credibility to those terms, and they would not have been able to marginalize Senator Ward from Arizona. But instead, because we have people who insist on using a term that is very detrimental to the cause of exposing and halting climate engineering, solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection, they use a term that has no scientific basis whatsoever, none. And the quote-unquote chemtrail manual, as I outlined last week, has nothing to do with climate engineering, nothing. Entry document manual for first-year Air Force recruits has nothing to do with climate engineering, but to do with other lab testing and functions. No scientific basis to the chemtrail term, simply a term that people choose to use and thus choose to discredit the climate engineering.
I mean, honestly, ladies and gentlemen, since I've gotten into this way of thinking, I'm going to move this away for a minute to something else. Since I've gotten into this particular, I don't know, way of thinking or looking at things that other people deem to be crazy. There's a bird. I almost think that these terms and like 9/11 was an inside job and using the terms chemtrail, I almost think that it is a way of controlled opposition because it works. It turns people off immediately. And once again, I do recommend Dr. Judy Wood for any of your 9/11 pleasure. Okay, back to him. I'm not going to do this too long. I really wish I could do this where there's not a glare of me. But, I'm not very high tech. It was take me or leave me. I hope you take me, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, can you see my artwork I did here? I made that. Okay, I'm all hunched over.
The anti-climate engineering cause. So, New York Times, look it up. You can watch the video yourself and see how that term was used. And one more source of seeing just how much mainstream media wants us to use that term. The power structure thus telling mainstream media to make sure we use that term. Search Dane Wigington, David Pakman, mainstream media hitman.
Oh God, David Pakman.
Yep. 15-minute interview with him in which he insisted I use the chemtrails term, which I absolutely, of course, did not. In regard to credibility, there's a few more points to consider here. Don't push or post information or claims that have not been investigated to a reasonable degree. To post, share, and thus propagate factually preposterous claims, of course, is harmful to the credibility of any cause, especially the climate engineering cause or anti-climate engineering cause. To post, share, and propagate sources of information that contain every imaginable fringe headline on countless unrelated, unsubstantiated, and often
just
patently false.
Look at these pictures, ladies and gentlemen. That is not natural.
Stories is, of course, extremely harmful to credibility and thus harmful to the critical cause of exposing and halting climate engineering. A glaring example of credibility-destroying narratives is the flat Earth fable.
Yep.
And those who want to ensure that the anti-geoengineering movement will never gain traction mix this narrative with the climate engineering subject, and in doing so ensure that the whole of academia will never come near the anti-geoengineering community. We can't win a battle with such a divided house. There are other extremely discrediting and patently false narratives being pushed and propagated by some sources and sites which pertain directly to the climate engineering issue. Here's a few examples of the most absurdly false narratives being pushed.
Okay.
That cooling towers are supplying all the moisture for storms over land, and that ships are supplying the moisture for storms over the ocean. Let's stop and think about that, especially we have Cyclone Harvey coming in, massive convection, unimaginable amounts of moisture in the atmosphere. Do we really think there's some ships floating around out there that are pumping all this moisture in the atmosphere from right in the middle of that storm? A warming planet produces more rain, not less. This completely false and discrediting cooling towers story is not new, and I've long since done an article that I posted addressing the mathematical absurdity of this disinformation.
I apologize again, ladies and gentlemen, for, the crudity of this video. In fact, I think I'm just going to go ahead and stop. First of all, I'm getting bitten by mosquitoes. Second of all, I can't get it so you can... I have a glare coming off me and all this jazz, and you can, see my phone in the background of me hunched over, and it's just a low quality thing, but I'm doing it to get the word out there is all. I mean, I think it's important for people to know what's going on, and if you don't believe me, if you don't believe this gentleman, if you don't believe this geoengineeringwatch.org, go out and look up in the sky sometime, okay? Things are not looking normal up there, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that's all. Thank you for putting up with this low-budget film, my low-budget filming. Lounging with Lisa, the video series that has me lounging while coming at you with thoughts of the day. Please remember, join with me, join with others, drop your political identities, and please, let's leave our labels at the door.